CNT140 Chapter 16 on monitoring and administering LAN wiring. All right, they're going to point out in this chapter a couple things that we at least need to keep in mind. Different monitoring methods for our physical cabling, and along with that, things like SNMP, network management, and our cable labeling. So first thing they remind us is we do need to monitor our LAN wiring system. Yeah, it is a dynamic thing. It changes. We're plugging things in. We're unplugging things. So when failures occur, we do need to identify them quickly and then help with repair and replacing very quickly. The big thing that helps with all this is your proper documentation. We've been saying it all along, especially even with your plan. We've been doing the spreadsheet where we're documenting all of our patch panel ports and cable labels and all that jazz. All that is going to help with locating our problem quickly and repairing it, replacing it quickly, getting things back online. That is huge. Two monitoring methods we have are direct and indirect monitoring of our cable system. The indirect is using things like servers and workstations to sense connectivity. And if a workstation cannot connect, there's a problem. Now, we know from dealing with networking issues, it could be a lot of things why a workstation does not have connection out to the internet, if you will. Could be lots of issues. So this is a very kind of basic, generic way, because the cabling may not be the fault, and a lot of times it is not the fault, especially when you're thinking horizontal cabling patch panel kind of thing. That's not usually the fault. It's, usually 10 other things that have caused the issue. But one way we can indirectly monitor our cabling infrastructure is, things like those connections. Direct monitoring is things like our switches, those sorts of things, NICs, and sensing the connection and literally displaying that to us in LED link light kind of method. So actually seeing in the closet the LEDs light up and showing link methods. That would be a direct monitoring. A remote version of this is using things like SNMP, using our network management station. So think of CNT125, where we did the network management lab, where we're actually making a map of the network and showing links and things failing, if you will, on the network. Here's an example of Cisco Works doing that. Here's an example of SolarWinds product called Orion doing that, mapping the network and showing color code on links, letting us know things are working, not working. Again, this could be other reasons why it's not working, but this would be a way to monitor our cabling. This looks more like what you did in the lab with OpenNMS, with our network management, showing the status of our devices, and then down here alarms on those nodes if there's failures or anything like that. So using a network management station, using simple network management protocol configured on our switches and routers, reporting back, things, a link has gone dead or a link is working. This is at least letting us know, the cabling on our network is working. But again, as we said, it's usually not the cabling. It's usually something else that's causing the issue. But this is a way to monitor our cable infrastructure. And then here's some more examples of SNMP running, working on stations and pulling in status and discovering of things and showing the link status on nodes. Okay, so think back to what you did 125, and this would be a way to monitor our physical cabling. Many times I do need to have things installed for this to work, like our switches and routers up and running, link lights, all that kind of good stuff. That is one way to do this. Another way is actually using a patch panel that is monitored that has link lights, if you will. Now, this is not very common at all, actually having a patch panel that has link lights on. If our whole business was cabling, I like to use an example of somebody like a Verizon or somebody that their whole business is infrastructure to you. This might be worthwhile to invest in. That you can say, that the cabling link is good, the problem has to be something else. But there is companies out there that produce monitor patch panels that you can tell if links are working or not. And actually, here's their product page showing that exact patch panel. And then there's a link light on each one, and then this can be monitored itself. The patch panel can be monitored itself. That's actually kind of cool, but maybe too cost prohibitive for most installs. Then they remind us about labeling everything. The guiding rules mark everything, outlet cable, patch panel, those kinds of things, and a good cable label and recording that, just like we've been doing in our project. Keeping that documented, hanging it in your closet, keeping it on file, keeping electronic copy, and then, having that so that you can use it for troubleshooting purposes. Our 606 standard talks about our labeling system and walks us through everything that we should be doing. The good rule of thumb is mark everything. Again, outlet, cable, patch panel, all those things, record that in a database. And the 606 walks through the whole, everything should be labeled, every cabinet should be labeled, text should be machine printed, patch panel should be labeled, it should be using unique identifiers, or as we said, a scheme that is understandable for your facility, document it. All patch panel ports should be labeled, cables terminating patch panels should be identified, equipment outlets should be identified, fire stopping, all these things must be labeled and identified so we know what they are and where they're going. And we need a good logical scheme, as we talked about before, something like an A20324. A could be the closet in your company. You could label your closets A, B, C, D, E. 203 is the room being cable, and 24 is the port on the patch panel or whatever. Good, simple, streamlined, but what matters is you pick a scheme, document it, and make sure everybody knows on your team what this scheme is, and then hang a key up, hang it up in your closet so you know. So my wiring systems itself do need to be monitored. We need some method, and they talked about using the link lights or using SNMP and all as a way to keep an eye on. But again, we recognize it could be many other things that are causing the problem. And then documentation is key on all this so that we can troubleshoot these issues really quickly.